everybody, and welcome back to G-Bear's Off-Grid Ways, a homestead in the desert. And yeah, look at these clouds up here, okay? Well, you can call them clouds if you want. Technically, they probably are. But right after you look at this little part of the video, I'm going to post in a couple of pictures I took earlier today. The Skyriders, as I call them, because there's no way that you can call them chemtrails. They got to be called something else. So I call them Skyriders. And they caused all of this. And you don't believe it, right? I've had people say, he wants us to believe that was all caused by planes. Well, I'm going to show you a couple of stages of this where it all started earlier today. And you can still see some of the streaks up there. Okay, they haven't completely spread out yet. This one is spreading out pretty good. There's a couple of streaks over there. They're starting to spread out, but they were predominantly for this area. And now we got them all put together. So whether they're intentionally doing this for an outcome or practicing or experimenting, who knows? But this is the outcome of what happened. All right, so that's next on this agenda. Here, this is my fire pit, and I was asked about burning trash off grid in the desert or wherever. Okay, I'm going to give you a couple of words of wisdom. We'll call it off-grid wisdom. All right, but it has to do with survival wisdom, off-grid wisdom, whatever you want to call it. All right. Fire doesn't care where you light it. It'll go where it wants to with the help of Mother Nature, like the winds that are blowing right now. So rule number one, have a good container to burn in. Make sure that it's covered all the way around. I got a metal rack on the top here to catch any large embers that might pop and want to come out of it. But a few do sometimes get out and get on the ground. So that leads to number two. Number two, do not ever, no matter what you think, do not ever light a fire outside, off-grid, or for survival, or anything like that, unless it's going to be a last-ditch effort to keep warm and signal a plane. Never, ever, ever light a fire outdoors in the wind. And I'm not talking high winds, I'm talking any wind. Right now the winds are gusting pretty good, but any wind. Because the embers that could pop up out of this, caught in a breeze, will be gone long before you can get to it and stomp it out. And if it gets into stuff like the dry grass that's over there all around here, it'll be instantaneous flash up and a fire going, and you ain't gonna put it out. You'll be running around stomping your feet and trying to get it out. Your garden hose doesn't reach that far, just don't do it. All right, it's total stupidity to light a fire on a windy day. You just don't do it. All right. Now, if you're going to have a wood burner or something inside your house or your cabin or whatever, make sure you have a good spark arrestor on the top of the smokestack. Because a single ember comes out of that thing and this wind will blow on it. And you've probably seen people lighting survival fires by rubbing two sticks together or using a little bow and twitch and running it back and forth to get a fire going on a rock with some dry leaves or whatever like that. And as soon as it starts smoldering, what do? They blow on it, because that oxygen helps aerate that fire and get it going faster. And this breeze will do that for you. So if you get an ember into that grass or into a bush and you got a wind like this blowing, it's going to go up like somebody sprinkled gasoline on it. Trust me. I know that for a fact. All right. So we're past that part. Let's get into the next part, the interesting part. All right, I've had a few questions. Number one question. Why can't I hook more than 4 batteries together? You know, on the LifePro 4s, everybody says 4 batteries, 4 in series or 4 in parallel, okay? That's a big, stupid misnomer. I mean, I'm going to tell you the truth. I got 4 in parallel. I've had people say you can only put 3 in parallel because the amount of amps you got is just too high. You can't do that. I'm running 230 amp hour, 12.8 volt batteries. I got 4 in parallel there, and then I got a 5th one in parallel with the whole system. How do I do it? All right. First of all, before we get into the wiring part, let me show you something here. Okay, this is from the lead times that I just pointed that out to you, all right? And what's it say right there? Support connecting up to 16 identical batteries for up to 4 in series as 48 volts or 4 in parallel at 920 amp hours. And then to make 16 batteries, you would take 4 sets of batteries, 4 sets of 4 batteries in series and connect those in parallel so that you got your increased amps. Okay, so this is a little bit misleading as to what it says, and some people are being confused by that. It does say you can use 16 batteries, but that's going to be 4 in series to make 48 volts, okay? You're going to connect 4 of them together in series and get your 48 volts. Now you're going to connect 4 groups of those together in parallel to increase your amps to 920 amp hours. Okay, now I did mine 4 in parallel for that 920 amp hours. So how can I add any batteries to that? Because I'm not doing any in series, right? I want to increase my my capacity, but I'm not going to increase my voltage. I want the amps to go up, not the volts. I want the volts to stay at 12 volt because I'm running a 12 volt system. Well, how do I do it? Well, wiring is important. And the wiring that I would use to do that is what they call diagonal wiring. So that wire that's coming down right there and goes over to the inverter, that's the positive cable going to the inverter. Okay, so diagonally across from that back post all the way to the last battery in the group is the negative cable that comes down and goes through my shunt battery monitor. And then that goes to the inverter. Okay, so I'm using the power across the batteries diagonally, not just off of one end of the 4 batteries. Because if you do it on both cables on this end, going to your inverter, then you're going to be drawing the first battery down first before the second battery gets to serve anything. I want to treat this whole thing as one giant battery, not as individual separate batteries. So I'm going to go for the positive on one corner, negative on the other corner, or positive in the beginning, negative at the end. All right? So that would give me a group of 4 on this system. If I wanted to add 4 more just like that down below where I've got that one, what I would need is a bus bar. Because I would bring these 4 together and tie them onto the bus bar. Then I'd bring another 4 together and tie those onto the bus bar. And then coming off of the bus bar, I would have to change from 1-aught wire that goes to my inverter, from the batteries to the inverter. I would have to use probably a 4-aught. That's a 4/0 size wire, big heavy duty wire. Because there's going to be quite a bit of amps that are capable of coming through, but I'm not going to be pulling that many amps ever through this inverter. Okay, remember I told you about how to figure amps and watts and voltage and all of that. Ohm's law. Watts equals amps times volts. So this is a 4,000 watt inverter at 12 volts. So if you divide 12 into 4,000, that's going to give you how many the maximum amps that this thing will handle. Okay, so you can figure out all of your equipment using that equation that I talked about in yesterday's video. So 12 goes into 4,000. Let's see, 10 goes into 4,000 40 times. 400 times. Yeah, 10 goes in 400 times. So 2 goes into 4,000, 2,000. So you add all of that together, your answer is the number of amps maximum you could feed into the system before you're going to blow it up. All right, so just because I have 920 up there plus another 100 here for 10,000 or 1,020, it doesn't mean I'll ever pull 1,020 amps through the system. I would never use that many amps to run this cabin. If you did put all that power together because you wanted to run a bunch of big industrial equipment, then you aren't very smart because you're not doing your math on your electricity. So you don't do that. For running a cabin like this, just fine. I'll put in right about here somewhere in the video, I will put in the readings from the morning and the nighttime on my smart shunt here of what my battery capacities are at. And you'll see that with just these 4 batteries, well, actually 5 batteries, that one extra actually gave me that a little extra kick up. But you'll see that I'm running most of the time between 80 and 90% full capacity from all day long and all through the night and first thing in the morning when I get up, even though I run fans and things like that and all my other equipment, my refrigerator and freezer, all that stuff is running inside the cabin. All right, and my security cameras and 16 cameras and a DVR and the monitors and all that stuff, it's all running in my cabin 24/7. And I'm still not dropping below, I would say probably the lowest I've seen it would be 80%, I think. And that was one day when I actually ran both air conditioners in there and 3 ceiling fans and all of that. And that didn't go down to that level until after the sunset. And I had drawn, I think, 800 and something amp hours on my battery system out of the, at the time I only had 4. Out of the 920, I had taken 800 and something amp hours down out of that system. But yet, 4 batteries, 230 amp hours each, they run this whole homestead. My shops, I run my power tools in there, all that stuff. And it's all on 4 batteries, 230 amp hours each. Now, if you got 300 amp hour batteries and you put 4 of them in a row, wow. You know, let's talk 1,200 amps, 1,200 amp hours at times 12.8 volts. That's how many watts you'll be able to run on that system. So all of that is all proof that it does work. All right. Now I've read some forums and people in there, and a lot of them are guessing at the reasons for not being able to connect 4 batteries together in parallel. All right. Well, you can't connect 8 batteries all in the same sequence and go off the beginning and the end on that. That won't work. You got to do them in what they call strings. So each string will come down to a bus bar, and then the bus bar will feed the inverter. All right, so I can make another string like that, and have plenty of power. Plenty. I got plenty now. Imagine if I had one more set of those. I'm running the lowest at 80%. Usually I'm seeing 84, 87, 89% first thing in the morning when I wake up. Right? So that's before the sun comes out. And if the sun comes out in no time at all, within an hour or two, I'm at 100% again. So these batteries are going to last a long time because I'm not drawing them down. They got 5,000 cycles if I draw them down to 0 every day. I can do it 5,000 times. Well, drawing them down only 20% every day, I've got 30 years worth of battery power right there. So bet on this as your system, okay? Don't go 12 volt, go at 48 volt. And if you're going to have a big place and a lot of stuff to run, and, granted, I don't have any women living here with me, so I don't need all of the extra specialties that the women want. Air conditioning, I got a couple of window air conditioners, fine for me. They want central air. Hey, you're going to have a bigger system. So get yourself a 48 volt system. Go with 16 batteries in a 48 volt system. 12 volt 230 amp hours or 12 volt 300 amp hours. And 16 of those batteries tied in series parallel. That means you'd have 4 in series, 4 in series, 4 in series, 4 in series, and then hook those 4 groups into parallel, and then go into your big inverter. And you would probably want to be running probably a 8,000 to 12,000 watt inverter for that system. If you're going to be running big air conditioner, central air, and all of that, go with a 12,000 watt all-in-one, and you'll be fine. You'll have plenty of power. You'll be able to do whatever you want to do. All right? So that's my episode for today. Let me see what else I had on here. Oh, yeah, we had some people chime in about charge controllers and that stuff. Well, I didn't want to confuse everybody, so I'm trying to keep the videos all on one topic of solar and battery power and that stuff. So today we talked about batteries and wiring the batteries. We'll get into charge controllers on another day, and we'll talk about amps, watts, volts input, and all that stuff. If you're going to be setting up a system off grid, I can tell you right offhand right now, don't just go buy the first charge controller or inverter that you see. You need to get a good all-in-one, and we'll get into that in another video. Because there's power in and power out, voltages and amps are all important. So you got to remember something. Some people talking about making connections and all that. You don't with like a wind turbine. You can't use a 48 volt turbine to charge a 12 volt battery system, or a 24 volt battery system, or a 36 volt battery system. And yes, I know you can buy converters and use those, buck converters. It's redundant. Why do that in the first place? You're going to go with a 48 volt system, buy a 48 volt wind turbine, a PMA, permanent magnet alternator, so you can run with smaller gauge wires. Right? And set up your system so it works all in the first time. Don't do a makeshift system like a lot of people do, and like I did in the beginning. I was experimenting with it all. I had to learn somehow, and I'm passing on what I learned to you guys so you don't have to do it. All right, that's all there is. I remember one thing too. If you're going to buy a really super big PMA for a wind turbine, those things can put out a lot of volts and amps. I mean, I've seen mine running probably 90 amps coming out of this 12 volt PMA. 90 amps coming down to the batteries. That's a lot of power. All right. those of you who don't understand electricity, just think about this. 90 amps is probably what all of a 100 amp electrical panel uses. That's all of the power you can get out of a 100 amp breaker panel. All right? Because that's 90% of the total capacity of the main breaker. That's a lot of power. Think about that. Would you go to that electrical panel and grab a hold of the bus bars? No. And all they'd find is a pile of ash on the ground. All right, so you got to be careful with those things. They can put out a lot of power. So you're going to get a really super big one, you're going to be spending on some other equipment to manage it. So the money goes up. Again, wind power is supplemental. I don't care how much wind you get, how many days you get. It is not a constant. It's never a constant. But the sun comes up every day, right up over the mountains, stays up in the sky all day long, and sets every day. All right? So you know that that's going to happen. And if it doesn't happen, like I said, you ain't going to need it. So if the sun doesn't come up any day of your life, then that's the day for you to burn your knees out and start praying. All right, everybody. Thanks for joining me. G Bear signing off.